You are listening to Fika with Vicky on United Public Radio, 107.7 and 105.3 from New Orleans.
There we go. Just a couple of little tech things there. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Fika with today's guest, Thea Prothero. I had it a minute ago. Who is primarily a
nemophilist.
Okay, I practiced that. Look, it's I suddenly can't talk. Let's just okay. A nemophilist, someone who loves to spend time in the forest, and heathen. And me, your tongue-tied host today, Vicky Benison. Today, we're focusing on Thea's newest release, A Guide to Pilgrimage, which came out just this week. So congratulations, Thea, and fantastic. You're already learning to promote by holding it up. This, now seriousness, people. This book took me through history, beyond the rigidness of belief systems, and directly into thoughts of what I held sacred, what places spoke to me, and what I would be willing to do to get there. Were some of the trips I had already taken pilgrimages? Had they changed me? And if so, how? In fact, I'd say that reading A Guide to Pilgrimage was a journey in itself, as it brought to my attention this need that I had, for various reasons, walked away from. Then, reading Thea's bio, I learned she also writes ghost stories. And since it is Halloween, she's agreed to read some for us today. At first, I was excited about this, but then she started talking about those ghost stories, and I became afraid, very afraid, but still excited. Thanks for taking me on a journey and encouraging more of them, Thea, and welcome to Fika.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. If we live closer, I'd have you walk on over, but
well, maybe one day.
That's it. Well, I'm not quite a pilgrimage site. And speaking of that, how would you define a pilgrimage? Because I know that yours is a little more open than, say, the dictionary's definition.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I thought about that when you suggested this question, and I thought perhaps I could read you a little extract from my book, which actually answers that question, which I thought would be a lot clearer than me just rambling on about things.
We would love that, but I'm sure you wouldn't ramble.
Yeah, you don't know me. So, what is a pilgrimage? Simply put, a pilgrimage is a journey to a specific destination. This destination is usually somewhere of meaning, such a place of spiritual or religious significance, or a site associated with important or meaningful events. Or it might be important to the pilgrim. There are dozens of reasons people go on a pilgrimage: to seek meaning in their lives, to deepen their relationship with their belief system, or the hope of achieving personal transformation. It may simply be to step away from the everyday life and to spend time in nature, away from technology, or it may be simply to get fitter. Most pilgrimages, are linear. That is to say, they start at one place and end at a different place, and involve a journey spent over a number of days, possibly weeks, possibly months, depending on how the journey is travelled and what the goal of the pilgrimage is. Often the journey is through a landscape, a culture, or a country unknown to the pilgrim, adding to the experience of separation from the everyday reality of their lives. There you go.
There you have it, right there, straight from A Guide to Pilgrimage.
From the introduction, yeah.
From the introduction. So during our introduction, we're reading the book's introduction. And that is what that is the way the book is written. It's written in such a way that it can appeal to all people.
Yeah.
You know, you're going to some place that is sacred to you. However, you start off the book going through the history of pilgrimages and what they
Hmm.
have meant to people over time, which is really interesting because you don't, I don't know, I don't think we hear enough about those things, or perhaps it's just that we don't hear enough about how they affected people. You know, one of those things you have to experience, and you have lots of experiences with pilgrimages. So, what first attracted you to the idea, and what encouraged you to write the book?
Well, I think I was thinking about this, and I think I've always been going on a pilgrimage throughout my life. I've always found walking and spending time in nature really inspirational. Walking in pilgrimage, specifically to special places such as a sacred site, has changed my perception and outlook on life on loads of occasions. And the book, although its primary goal is to help others go on pilgrimage, it's also about a very specific journey I undertook roughly 6 years ago at a turning point in my life. Iona, the place I went to, is a small, or it's actually a tiny island off the west coast of Scotland. And for many centuries, it has been a centre of pilgrimage for Christians. And it called to me, and I answered the call. When I was traveling, I reflected that actually there are many books on pilgrimages aimed at Christians and other mainstream religions. But if you follow an alternative belief system, or maybe no system at all, if you're an atheist, there's really nothing for you. And I wanted to fill the gap. I also found that most pilgrimage books concentrate on walking, and which is a traditional way of going on pilgrimage. But how many people these days can spend months or even years going on a pilgrimage? I mean, I wanted to give the concept of pilgrimage an upgrade, really.
And you did, and you did. I could see, you know, if you're a follower of a certain story, you go to where that story was written or described so that you can go to the places during this story. Or if you, there are so
Yeah.
many pilgrimages, it opens it up to, there are so many pilgrimages and trips of meaning that you can take out
Mm.
there. And you do. So your original, you started with this vision that you had of Iona,
Yes.
and ended up, eventually, that wasn't your first pilgrimage though.
No, I've done other ones. I didn't really always know they were pilgrimages, but I have done other ones when I was younger, for various different reasons. For example, off the top of my head, I went to visit Sylvia Plath, the author's grave. When I went to Yorkshire, I went specifically to go up to Heptonstall where she's buried and visit her grave, which is a pilgrimage because it was quite a hard trek up a really big hill, and the area it's in is really kind of surreal. It's would certainly look right on Halloween night with the gravestones and the wind whistling and the leaves shaking. It was quite a magical place, and it was quite important to me to go and do that
Well,
at the
I think
time.
that's what another thing, as I mentioned in the introduction, we may have gone. I'm like, was that a pilgrimage? Because we may have gone on pilgrimages and not even realized it.
Yeah, yeah,
It
definitely.
And then we got to the part where you talk about having to readjust after that pilgrimage, after those feelings. And I'm thinking, maybe my problem is I didn't give myself time to readjust. But I think it's important to consider these places pilgrimages because I know I have a problem whenever I go to some place that has deep meaning. And okay, deep meaning that I want to move there. Okay. I want to pick up and move there. And so if you make it a pilgrimage, that 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 stops that from happening. Okay, we are getting some echoing, and we tried to stop that, but yeah, I can hear it's getting really bad. Let's just try those headphones once again.
Okay.
And if it and we'll just make sure that none of our things are muted.
Okay, 1 second.
Sorry, folks. We were working on this before, and then we lost. Okay, can you hear me? Okay, but I can't. Can you talk for a minute? Nope. See, I can't hear her when she talks, and this is not going to work either. Okay. All the things, nothing is muted. Nothing is muted on yours, right? There's no little X's through any microphones. Okay. Let's okay. What if we try going out and oh, this is bugging me. But there is no echoing. Dave, do you hear any echoing when she has her headphones on? Okay, I'm not going to get an answer. Okay, what to do? What to do about this? You know what we're going to try? We're going to try, see down at the bottom, it says leave studio on the taskbar. Okay, if you leave studio and come back in, and we'll hope that that makes it work. Okay? All right, great. Okay, so let's try your talking. Oh, why is it doing that? Why? All right. Troubleshoot. There's only me. No, she did not go on a pilgrimage off screen, and you're not being helpful. We see this. Okay, and now I think did we freeze? Dave, it's not funny. Either help me or shush. All right. I have no idea what we're going to do about this. Okay, we're going to have to go with the echo. Can you take it out again? Yep. Okay. So, and 6 people, they never left. They stayed here. You are the most amazing listeners in the entire world, and I apologize for the echo. If I sit farther away. Okay. I don't think it's quite as bad. All right. So, here we go. Sometimes you have to take pilgrimages off screen just to get back to what you wanted to do in the first place.
Yes.
Okay, so where we were that you wanted to open up the idea of pilgrimages to everyone, despite what their belief system might be. And even though you consider yourself heathen, you took a lot of historically Christian and Christian pilgrimages. Can you tell us a little bit about how that worked for you?
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's a really good question, actually. Yeah, I am a heathen, but I do love visiting cathedrals and churches. I find them very spiritual, with layers and layers of belief over the centuries and layers of history, which I think builds in to make them almost visceral. Often you'll find, certainly here in the UK, that the churches and the cathedrals are often, though not always, built on much older sacred sites, usually pagan in origin, which adds to the depth of devotion in one place. And I think this kind of builds up, this spirituality builds up over time. And I always find when I go into one of these places, it almost speaks to me, the level of spirituality, the level of belief in one place. Added to that, when you go into a church, they're usually quite calm, quite quiet places, which is really quite ideal for if you want to meditate or if you just want to sit in contemplation. They're brilliant for that. And I always take my gods with me in the churches, and I've never really had a problem with that. My gods seem quite happy to go there. So to answer the part about Christian pilgrimage, though, in practical terms, they're often the best places that are signposted. There's often lots of information and resources available for them, particularly, say, for example, the Camino de Santiago, which runs from France to Spain. It really helped me a lot last year when I went on pilgrimage in Norway. As I've already mentioned regarding Christian places, often you look deeply and you'll see a far older pagan story behind them. Even if this is not the case, the routes themselves are usually quite impressive and humbling to think that for hundreds of years people have walked on these routes in the very same steps you're walking in. And if you think about it, you're actually becoming part of the history of the pilgrimage, which is quite sobering and humbling.
So it's a connecting of the different religions into one merging because you're all part of taking the same journey for that period of
Yeah.
time. And yes,
Yeah.
there are like a lot of sacred wells. Just with Rachel Patterson, we had a little while ago with Sulis, her well was built over. And so people saw sacredness in the area and just sort of captured that as well.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And you said you haven't been hit by lightning.
No, he's not around at the moment. So,
so you have higher permission to do that.
I haven't asked him, but I could if you want.
Well, I think not being hit by lightning gives you gives you a go. No, okay, don't. I don't want to get myself in trouble. I'm echoing so no one can understand what I'm saying. Anyways.
Oh dear.
Now, when we talk about Iona, this came to you before you even knew what a pilgrimage was.
Yes.
You had a vision, a dream.
Yes.
Can you tell
it was. I think it started when I was a teenager, and I kept dreaming about this island that was surrounded by really deep sapphire blue seas, and was really green with like grey buildings and green stones, and it was very very significant, but I couldn't place why I kept dreaming about this island. And I just dismissed it at the time and thought, just a dream. But the dream kept reoccurring through my life, maybe at different times of my life. And it's only later, when I saw a TV program which featured Iona, that I realised that's the place I've been dreaming about.
And
yeah, it called me.
And if you hadn't been watching a documentary, you would never have known where it was.
I may have found it eventually. I think it was meant to be, so I would have found it.
And so a lot of people would think, oh my goodness, this is a big thing. It's a dream. She's waited her life to do this. There's the expectations are high, but you were never disappointed in taking this trip.
No. I mean, I always went on this trip with an open mind. So whatever happened. I never had any problem getting to Iona, which I know some people have. So I think it was always meant to be that I went at that particular time, which was significant to me. And when I was there, the weather was fantastic. It was beautiful, sunny. I never had any problems at all. So, I think I was kind of blessed in a way to go at that time.
And when you came back, you don't have to talk about the specifics, but you do have a section in in A Guide to Pilgrimage that talks about adjusting when you come back.
Oh yeah.
So in what ways?
I think it's a really good question. How you adjust. I mean, it's almost like you've had this profound experience and you need to let it sit with you for a while till you understand it. But sometimes it's quite abstract, the feeling you get from going on a pilgrimage. And for example, last year on my pilgrimage over into Norway, I had two really profound events happen, and I still can't absorb and put them into words. They're too profound for me yet. But I know one day it will come to me how to express them and how to integrate them into my life, so to speak. So
No, go ahead.
I was thinking, for a person, when you go somewhere that's kind of out of time, which you would do sort of on a pilgrimage, and then you step back into the real world, you need time to adjust back into the real world because you've been out of it for so long, or for a time. The time might only be short, but it probably feels like a huge amount of time to you because you've changed so much. So you need to adjust back. And I think you need to allow yourself time, be kind to yourself, and allow yourself a bit of time to do that. I mean, after a while, I think you can absorb what everything meant on the pilgrimage. I mean, it took me 4 years to write the book. That's how long it took me to absorb what happened on the pilgrimage.
Yeah, no, because there is that experience because you're separated from your regular life. And so
Yeah.
there's that inner I'll say spiritual or just life-changing experience. And
Mm.
then on top of that, if you've been in the woods, if you've been away from home, if you've been traveling, there's all those practical things that have taken you outside of your world as well. So you suggest, and you're probably doing that because you're a writer, but you suggest journaling helps both before and after a
Yes,
pilgrimage.
yeah, definitely. Um, I journal all the time. I mean, I've had a journal since I was maybe about 12, I think. Um, if I think everybody should journal, not just pilgrims, but I always carry my journal with me when I do go on pilgrimage because I like to make notes about what I'm seeing, how I'm experiencing things. And also, I collect things like I might collect a leaf or a feather or something that perhaps falls in my path. And also, sometimes if things are going wrong, I might want to just get it let off steam. So I do it in my journal. It's a perfect thing, a journal, for getting everything down there. And also, when you return, you can go back over what you've done and how you felt at that time and sort of reflect on everything. So journaling is amazing. And if I don't know if you're planning to have him or if you've had him, but Andrew Anderson, who wrote the book The Ritual of Writing on Moon Books, he's the journal man. You definitely should get him on here.
I've
He's my
I've been wanting
inspiration.
to. Yeah, yes. No,
He's amazing. But
okay.
that book is brilliant for any type of spiritual writing, and it really helped me with my writing.
And so when we speak spiritual, we're speaking any experience that
Mm.
makes us. Why did I start this trend of thought? But it's quite often people will see spiritual in one way or another, but we're
Yeah.
talking about anything that removes us from our everyday life.
Yeah.
Do you know one of the like greatest mass pilgrimages in England from the past? Like, would that be the
Maths
Crusades? He wrote
pilgrimage.
about the Crusades.
Uh, he wrote about maths. What, as in
Oh no, a
as in the
mass,
subject?
like a large pilgrimage with a
Oh,
large
sorry.
amount of people. A mass. Yeah,
I was going to say I could probably find someone who could write a maths pilgrimage, but
yeah.
perhaps that's not what you mean.
Yeah. No, and we talk about. Do you also include people that are people who, because pilgrimages take money, so they may not have money for a huge pilgrimage,
Oh
or
yeah,
they
yeah,
may have physical reasons. They may be a caregiver. Not everyone can, just up and go pilgrimaging.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I truly believe that pilgrimage is for everybody, no matter what their situation is. I mean, if you're housebound, for example, you don't have to actually physically go on a pilgrimage. You could go on a pilgrimage in meditation or journaling. You could go to the place that you want to go to. You don't have to physically go there. Um, and a pilgrimage doesn't have to be to an established place that's miles away or takes forever to get to. It could be, for example, a tree in your local park that you're particularly fond of or is significant to you. The journey for you to get to this tree is no less difficult than somebody who spends 5 months going on the Camino. And when you get there, you get the same rewards because um, sorry, I've forgotten what I was saying.
No, I'm not being as helpful today because I don't want
The
to
huge,
echo.
the huge sense of achievement from reaching that tree is equal to the people who finish the Camino de Santiago. I mean, to you, that pilgrimage is important, it's significant, it's changed you because you've managed to do it yourself. It's an achievement, and that's what pilgrimage is all about.
It's doing what you need in that
Yeah,
moment
yeah.
for yourself. Okay. Diane wants to know, do you still dream of Iona, or has that dream been fulfilled and all completed?
Actually, I don't dream about Iona. It's an interesting question. Although I've been there more than once now. I've been there twice. And one of the sayings that you'll find in Iona Abbey, which is the main church there, is that everybody should go to Iona 3 times. And I've always kept that in my heart. So I will go back there, but not at the moment. It's not right for me. But I don't dream about it anymore. I think because what I needed to get from Iona, I've got, or as far as I know, I've got that. So, but thank you for the question.
You never know. You never know
No.
what's waiting for you, but you're content at the
Yeah.
moment with the way things are.
Yes. Yeah.
And you also in the book just talk about, which are my favorites, labyrinths and mazes, and how you can
Oh yeah.
extend your short journey by going around in circles and deep thoughts.
Well, actually, that's a good point. I mean, if somebody, for example, finds it too difficult to go on a really long pilgrimage, why don't you go to a labyrinth or a maze if you've got one nearby, or if you could get to one? Because basically, a labyrinth or a maze is a pilgrimage in miniature. In my book, I talked to Ima Burke, who's the chief of OBOD, the Ovates Druid group. And she told me that she's got a labyrinth in her garden, which she regularly goes into and meditates and follows through all along the different areas just to help her set her mind straight. It's like going on a miniature pilgrimage, going to a labyrinth.
And you extend that idea by even like making in your journal, drawing different
Yeah.
mazes and labyrinths, and working your mind, because that takes you away
Mm.
from your daily thoughts.
Yeah. I mean, I've got a miniature labyrinth that somebody made for me that I keep by my bed, which I use as a meditation aid. So what I do is I close my eye and run my finger around the labyrinth and imagine it's myself walking the labyrinth, which is it's very transcendental. It helps you get into the zone of being on a pilgrimage. I think when you reach the center, or will you reach the center? If you go wrong, where will you end up? You know, it's much like a pilgrimage journey because you can go wrong, you can go the wrong way, or you can get stuck somewhere. But that's all part of the journey.
And I just wanted to ask you because, people might get confused. We always see these things as big, which is what I love about your work, is that it made it small for us again. That because you dreamed of Iona, that they have to have a specific calling or a vision or whatever, and they may not have that, but want to go on a pilgrimage. Can you give a couple of suggestions on how they might decide where their destination should be?
I think the destination on a pilgrimage is a key. Whether you actually go there or you don't, if you're not able to, you can still go there in your mind. Um, to find the destination in the book, I suggest different meditations. I think I include a couple of them, and also journeying. Do research online, read books. It may be, if you listen to your instincts, you may actually have the place already in your heart where you need to go. I think you really need to listen to what your body or your heart's telling you where to go. And talk to people, talk to other pilgrims, people who've been on pilgrimages. They're usually really inspiring people, and they'll certainly be able to help you find the place.
So I'm afraid to talk. Okay. It's so much better when you talk. I can just take over. Okay. So it is true. I mean, with even the shows that I do on Fika, the other day I got a notification from Facebook that said, "This is what other travel sites are doing." And I was like, "Oh, I'm a travel site now." But we don't leave the house. We just stay at Fika. So there are many ways to take a trip, to take a journey, and Thea does I mean, I haven't quite put my finger on what it is about her writing, which I've stated, but there is something about it that is just so down to earth and so engaging that if you read this book and don't pick up your walking stick or staff or whatever you have and head down a trail or start a little labyrinth or start a little new journey, then I don't know what's wrong with you people because it's very encouraging to do that.
Thank you.
So she takes us through the history, historical Niagara. I have a copy, so if you read it, you might get your mass pilgrimage. But I think you talked about the Crusades as being one of the
Hmm.
biggest, the biggest,
Well, yeah.
the
Um,
biggest mass. Not saying agreeing with the Crusades or not, just saying that's a historical fact, and that's what we're going with. um, how to it has in there what to take on it, how to plan the journey, how to it's practical, it's inspirational, and I just really liked it. So since you were so great at writing that book, are you working on anything else now?
yeah, I've just handed in my second manuscript to my publisher, which is the same publisher, the Brilliant Moon Books.
Moon Books, yes.
It's a book about heathenry, and I'm just at the moment writing my third book, which is kind of linked to that. Well, I won't say too much about it because I've only just started it.
And you knock on wood, you don't want to jinx it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, any idea when you're heathen me? Like, I know it's not exact, but
Not yet. It's still being copy edited at the moment, so I would have
so
thought either late next year or the year after. I would think it would probably be out. Hopefully.
okay. But definitely there'll be a lot of strolling through woods in this book.
Well, maybe different sort of strolling in different places that may
Yes.
be mythological, but
Oh, mythological is good. We can go to many places that way. And if somebody wants to so is this your dream writing? Because you write ghost stories too. Are we ever going to see a ghost story book?
oh, that would be lovely, wouldn't it? That is. You asked me what my dream
Yeah.
project would be, and it would be to have a book of my ghost stories and horror stories published, which that would be amazing. I've got one of my stories is being published in a journal called The Silent Companion, which is the publisher is called A Ghostly Company in the UK. That comes out at Christmas. And also Moon Books have a digital magazine called Moonscape, which comes out twice a year.
Yeah.
And I've got a ghost story in the next issue.
I think you had something about Facebook about that on Facebook this morning. You were
Did
talking
I?
about a ghost story on Facebook.
Oh,
Okay.
that's on my blog tonight. That comes out at 6 o'clock UK.
Okay.
That's a real life ghost story.
A real life one. And it's, I talk to people about this and sometimes they look at me crazy, but I want to do a show around Christmas because it makes sense that that book comes out at Christmas time because ghost stories were a big part of the Christmas tradition.
Oh, definitely, yes.
And we don't see that, but I want to see more of that because I am particularly fond of ghost stories. Okay, so for time fact, and then you can just tell your stories and I don't have to talk anymore and have the echoing. So it's clear. Where can they find you? Where can they find your books?
You can find my books from any retailer. If they haven't got it, they should be able to order it. That's everywhere in the US and in the UK. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Instagram. I've got a blog, which my blog is called the Heathen Pilgrim Substack.
And it's floating along the bottom here.
Yeah. Do subscribe. It's completely free. So, I write at least once a week on it. So it's always got my ramblings.
Well, it's important. It goes with this book because there are from A to Z. I've checked it out, people. I'm impressed. There's from A to Z destinations, and they're all over the world. So there are destinations in North America, so as like Logan's Rock in Nova Scotia and the Appalachian Trail. So those are close by, and also giving you more ideas about other trips that you can take. Right?
Yeah. That originally that was going to be in the book, but the publishers felt that it didn't really fit with what they wanted, so it gets to go on my blog instead.
and so we get it anyways, and I love it when people do that. They take the segments that possibly didn't make the publishers go hooray,
Sure,
but they're still wonderful, and that's one of the great things about blogs. Okay, now to be scared, to be very, very scared.
Oh, okay.
You read your story. So you love to write ghost stories. That is your dream book.
Yeah.
Not that you don't love these other books and you don't love, but that's the play.
Yeah.
And can you tell us a little bit about what you're going to read us today?
Yeah, I've written a story particularly for you. Oh. So this is a first.
Oh my goodness! Okay, I'm just. This is for me. No, it's for Fika.
Well, it's for your show. Yeah. So it's based around Halloween. Interestingly, I don't write about Halloween. I usually write about Christmas, which seems to fit really well with ghost stories. And it's probably my favourite time of year for ghost stories. Every year I write a ghost story for my family, who sort of treat it with kind of like, oh, not another one. They're not big ghost story fans, but I've been doing that for about 5 years now. So they kind of put up with me doing that. And it's just kind of a nice way for me to concentrate on the dark season, the solstice, when it's dark at night and everybody's huddled around their fires listening. I'm also a huge fan of M.R. James. I don't know if you know, he's like the ghost story man. And he used to read his stories on Christmas Eve to his chit chat club, which I think is perfect, Okay. I'd love to be able to do that.
So I'm just gonna ask you. I want to do a story about Christmas, a show about Christmas ghost stories on the 26th of December. About favorite writers and the different stories that. Do you want to do that with me?
Unfortunately, I'm on holiday over Christmas.
That's right. Well, that doesn't. We will do it
I'm not
another
sure if
time.
you
I just want to do a show with you that doesn't have echoing. So, okay, shoot.
fingers crossed.
A story.
Okay, so my story is called The Trick-or-Treaters, and let me begin. Are you sitting comfortably? Are you prepared to be chilled? Mary sat silently in the darkened kitchen, watching the hands of the clock snail around slowly. Her hands were so cold that even when she sat on them to get a bit of heat, they were still numb. It got dark so early in October. She dared not stand too near the window in case anyone saw her, especially them, the trick-or-treaters. Just thinking about them made her heart race, and her breath was shaky. She distracted herself by flicking through this week's Look-In, but every page, it seemed to her, was filled with pumpkin-headed ghoulish monsters, or ghosts desperately trying to scare her. It was the last thing she needed right now. Mary glanced at her reflection in the mirror next to the fridge. She considered herself an unremarkable child, with mousy hair that hung limply on her shoulders, pale skin and pale eyes. She was about average height for a 9-year-old, average at reading and slightly below average at maths. 4:30 p.m. Her stomach was rumbling, so she decided to brave opening the fridge door and getting out the sandwich and milk her mum had left for her. The fridge door admitted light. If she did it fast, it wouldn't matter. Maybe no one would see it. Maybe they wouldn't see it. She hesitated, unsure, but hunger eventually overcame her. Quietly, she ate. The bread was rubbery and stale, as it always was. It had that tasteless, pale yellow cheese again. The same every day. She wondered why they made it like that. She gulped down her milk, thinking it was tasteless too. She sighed. With the utmost care, she placed the plate and glass in the sink. If she did it exactly right, it wouldn't make a sound. She noticed fleetingly the strange green glow from the Frankenstein cutout in the window of the house across the road. The pavement was wet, and the eerie green light seemed to glow as she watched them reflected in the puddles. Fools, she smirked. It would be the first house they went to. Nevertheless, she half wished she could go trick-or-treating with her mum like she had last year. Her cat costume looked pathetic, hanging unloved, darkly behind the door. She wondered how many sweets she would have got this year. Last year, her pumpkin bag had been full before she'd even left the street. She had gorged herself until she was sick when she got home while watching Dracula on TV. Maybe she still had a stash of sweets from last year in her room. She wondered. She so desperately wanted to run upstairs and eat them, but it was too dangerous. The stairs creaked. Besides, she couldn't remember where she'd even put them. 4:55 p.m. If only she could turn the TV on. It was 5 to 5 and Friday. That meant Crackerjack, her favourite TV programme. This week was bound to be a Halloween special. She clenched her hands in frustration. Too risky. She'd have to move the aerial around to get a decent reception. Meaning she might be spotted. She knew her mum would be cross with her for drawing attention, and they were definitely bound to turn up at that moment, or when it was on, and they would definitely hear the TV. She wondered what time her mum would be home. After bedtime, probably. She always listened for the latch and pretended to be asleep so she didn't get in trouble for staying up late. She just liked to know she was home. Taking her place behind the settee, where the deepest shadows lived, in the furthest corner from the window, she sat and waited. Her mind was now completely filled with thoughts of them. She tried hard not to think of the trick-or-treaters, but her thoughts raced ahead. The grating of the knocker. Echoing in the quietness was this the first thing she remembered. It rapped and rapped and rapped and rapped, louder and louder and louder. She covered her mouth, suppressing a scream, her heart pounding so hard, tears formed in her eyes. She knew that they peered through the letterbox. Those piercing eyes would be searching for her, waiting for her to come to the door. The knocking was deafening, so loud she had to cover her ears. Trick or treat! Trick or treat! The voices would roar, and the whole house would shudder. The front door would shake like a dying elephant. All the while, the knocker would be rapping and rapping and rapping. Her hands were shaking so badly, she hugged herself tighter. Burying her face in her knees, her tears soaked into her tights. She hoped that if she pretended she wasn't there, they would go away. Or if they thought no one was home, they wouldn't even bother coming up the path. She hoped. She really hoped. She couldn't guess what the time was. In the perpetual darkness that she inhabited, it felt like it must be nearly midnight. Did she dare go and look at the clock in the kitchen? Her curiosity got the better of her, and that's when it happened. Just as she crept into the hallway, on tiptoe, as noiselessly and soundlessly as she could, she saw a shadow momentarily pass through before the streetlight that shone through the kitchen window. Instantly she froze. There was muffled sounds, and someone laughed. Please, please, please let it be Mum. She held her breath, but try as she might, she couldn't tear her eyes away from the front door or move a muscle. This was it. Rap, 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 rap. The letterbox scraped as one of them tried to force it open. How she wished she thought to tape it up or something. She could feel the eyes searching the hallway, and she prayed they would somehow miss her in the darkness. There's someone there! I told you it wasn't empty! The boy's voice sounded triumphant, and she heard muffled sounds of surprise from the others. The cold, dark eyes fixed on Mary with a look of victory. Come on, open the door, or you'll pay. When Mary didn't move, the boy continued. Just give us some sweets and we'll go away. Silence. Mary knew now it would be a good opportunity to flee, but fear froze her to the spot. We know where your bin is. Ha 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 ha. The laughter got louder and louder. Trick or treat. The door was shuddering as they rapped on the knocker again and again. Mary crouched on the floor. Her tears, unbidden, formed a puddle in front of her that glinted in the streetlight. Her hands clenched tightly over her ears, but she couldn't block out the incessant laughing. Trick or treat! Trick or treat! Mary found she was screaming and snarling, as suddenly she was consumed by a red, burning anger. She dug her nails into her arms so hard that they formed bloody moons. She wanted them to go away. Filled with a furious, biting courage, she sprang forward to the front door, shrieking at the top of her voice. Go away! She flung the door open with all her might. Go away! The effect was immediate. The chanting stopped, and mouths gaped open. Their eyes, now hollow and round, were wildly staring at Mary. Faces turned white as a corpse. They began to back away, bumping into each other. Somehow in the confusion, they managed to reach the gate, and as soon as they were through it, they began to flee as fast as they could down the road. The boy, dressed as a clown, who had been shouting through the letterbox, momentarily glanced back and locked eyes with Mary, who was standing on the doorstep. He spoke to another child, who was dressed as a witch, who stopped a little way up the road, and of all things, was trying to take a picture. Ghost, a real ghost, mouthed the boy, and then they were gone into the dark Halloween night. All that was left was a few candy corns and a broken torch on the path.
And that is it.
Yeah.
Bravo, bravo. I loved it. It's the twist, and And you are such a good reader.
Thank you.
You did that so very well. I'm impressed, and I can see it. Yes, you must go on and write a book.
Yeah, hopefully eventually.
No, now, Thea. and I forgive. And Barbara says, "Lovely." Hi,
Thank you,
Barbara.
Barbara.
Thanks for joining us. It was lovely. And so you, like you said, that was your first Halloween one because you prefer to write them around Christmas.
I do,
And
yeah.
yes. But I think that's great. It's a great family one, and it's a great, this is why I like ghost stories. I feel like they're a separate genre from horror or anything like that because there is the story, there's the past. And now I want to know, but didn't you include what happened to her and her mother? Like, yes, now I'm just now the real horror is I'm just curious.
Well, that is for me to know and you to guess.
And Robert's, no, Thea, you see, this is why I do this show, so that I have the author right there with me.
Thank you,
Robin.
Robin.
Nice, Thea. So I have the author right there with me. Okay, so let's try this from another vent. When you write something like this, does it pop into your head what might have happened to them? And did it pop into your head this time?
No, not really. I kind of knew the girl was a ghost, but I wanted to confuse the reader. So
or the listener in this case.
The listener. Sorry, yeah, the listener.
Well, thank you. I feel very honored that you wrote that specifically for this. I should reel this, like just cut this out. And this was worth all the echoing and everything just to hear your story. So
Thank you.
I hope you I would love to read, see more of
Yeah,
that.
definitely.
And I forgive you for going on holidays.
First time for 20 years, so.
Oh, it's not a pilgrimage. It's just a holiday.
No, it's a family holiday.
Family holiday. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, we can't walk away. We can't.
No.
I said.
I don't know what the internet's like there either. So.
Well, I shouldn't have asked during the show, but I was just excited to find, a kindred spirit.
Otherwise, I would have loved to. Yeah.
So we have to do that one day when we're not echoing. You're not echoing, I'm echoing. And so I feel bad for that. So we have to do another show. Yeah, that's all there is to it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I have to make this up to you.
We could talk about ghosts.
And we can talk. Yes. I will have all ghosts lovers, all ghost story lovers, everybody can come to my show anytime they want to. And Thea particularly, because she wrote a story just for this show. Actually, you know what? People be like Thea. Write stories.
Send them in.
Just for Fika.
Vicky's address is at the bottom somewhere.
Can you imagine? I would love it. I need to start an anthology of ghost stories. Like have, like Vicky's favorite ghost stories. And I do have one with Christmas stories. Christmas ghost stories, and then ghost stories in general. But there's so much that people can they can do for free with public domain, or they can just have lovely people write them stories like Thea.
Well, also, do you know Uncanny, the podcast? I just thought I'd ask.
I do now, because when you said you were writing that ghost story, yes, the real one.
Danny Robbins,
yeah, you said you were channeling Danny Robbins, and I'm like, well, who is Danny Robbins? You see, this is what gets me in these messes. Yeah, so I looked him up, and I was like, oh wow, this sounds really interesting as well. Yes, no, it's just a trail. Curiosity leading us to the trail, which is why I think I'm susceptible to the entire pilgrimage idea because, on Halloween I've always thought, well, why don't I go to Sleepy Hollow, and see where the headless horseman is? Why
Mm,
don't I do these things? And I have to do more of that. So thank you for contributing
that's all right.
such a lovely story to our Halloween, and for taking your day off that you don't usually have for, you know to spend with us, and writing the very people. I'm telling you, I don't know what it is. I will figure it out. But there is something that just pulls you in with a guide to pilgrimage. So, unfortunately, we need to say goodbye now, Thea. But I hope you have a happy Halloween. Your day is
Oh,
almost
thank
over,
you.
so
Yeah, I'm going to the cinema to watch Halloween, the film with friends.
are you dressing up?
No, no. I've
No.
only my t-shirt, which is actually Hail the Goddess, but
Oh, you seem like such a fun person.
Well, I dress up as some things, but perhaps not tonight because I might get caught by the police or something.
That's it. She seemed so quiet, and then I feel like there's no. So you oh, Diane says, and then I'm going to turn comments. Thanks so much, Thea and Vicky. Look forward to next time when you're on the show, Thea. The echoing didn't distract from the enjoyment. Thank
Thank you,
you.
Diane.
Okay. You take care. I'm going to turn off comments,
Thank you.
guys. And we will see you soon, hopefully. Okay.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Christmas maybe.
Sometime when you're not on holiday. All right.
Yeah, yeah.
You take care. Bye.
And you. Thank you.
Okay. Oh, no, 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 no. I don't want to hit that. All right. I did it. All right. Let's get take this all out. All right. Next week, after that lovely time with Thea, next week, our guest will be. Oh, next week, our guest will be Shane Joseph, and he's returning with his latest novel, Victoria Unveiled, which asks the question, with chat boxes and large language models changing the world of writing and publishing dramatically, what happens when we introduce a sentient robot capable of feelings into the mix? So we'll see how his characters work, answer that question. And it's been a while since we talked to Shane, so it will be fun. And for the rest of you, I'll see you all next week. Until then, may your coffee be hot and your story sweet. Thanks for listening, everyone. This has been a day.